Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Lebanon Utility Service Board for Wednesday, November 9th, 2022. Please let the record show that the meeting was properly advertised. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first thing I want to do tonight is welcome our newest board member, Ann Patterson. Ann replaces Jim Urban, who served the board for many years, so we welcome Ann. First item tonight is the approval of our minutes from the October 19th, 2022 meeting. Everyone had a chance to review those minutes, and if so, any questions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Aaron to approve the minutes from the October 19th, 2022 meeting. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next item tonight is the schedule meeting dates for our meetings for 2023. I know those meetings were presented to the board, and does someone like to make a motion to approve those dates as presented? Of course, we reserve the flexibility to change those if we need to, but we have a schedule for 23, so.
I make a motion to approve the Lebanon Security Service Board meetings dates as presented.
Second. Motion made by Bill, seconded by Tim to approve the meeting dates for 2023. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the next item tonight is the appointment of our board officers, liaisons, and committees for 2023. It's an action item, and we did have some discussion at our working session on these items. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the utility board slate of officers as follows: Chairman, Neil Taylor; Vice Chairman, Bill Stoner; Secretary, Tim Hudson.
Second.
Motion made by Aaron and seconded by Ann to approve the utility board slate of officers as stated. Any additional discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then we'll have an additional motion for appointing our utility department liaisons.
I move to approve the following as utility department liaisons: electric utility, Tim Hudson; wastewater utility, Aaron Smith; water utility, Bill Stoner; I-Lines, Ann Patterson; administration, Neil Taylor.
Second.
Motion made by Aaron, seconded by Tim to approve the appointments for the utility liaisons for 2023 as stated. Any additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then we have one more motion for our two committees, the Personnel and the Finance Committee.
I move to approve the utility board's committee members as follows: Personnel Committee, Tim Hudson and Bill Stoner; Finance Committee, Neil Taylor and Aaron Smith.
Second.
Motion made by Aaron, seconded by Ann to approve the utility board's committee members as stated for the Personnel and Finance Committee. Any additional discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Looks like our next item is an information item, and that is being handled by our General Manager, Ed Basquill, concerning IMPA rates. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to share my screen now. Annually, IMPA does a comparison for us of neighboring utilities in Indiana, and I have 4 tables of very similar data I'm going to share. Let me try and lay them out for you. This first, table 1 is just a comparison of monthly electric bills of Lebanon and the average of IMPA members with what we call IOUs, or investor-owned utilities. It shows the value of public power to their community because utility is owned by a municipality and not investors seeking dividends. They're managed by a board appointed by the mayor and city council, this board, and not comprised of the largest stockholders. There's a sense in which we do pay dividends, and we call it pilot, and we return our value to the community. One thing you'll notice about this chart is there's a non-IOU on there besides us. There's Boone REMC. I included Boone REMC because their territory surrounds us, and people should know how we compare with our nearest neighbor. And you can see that for 500 kilowatt hours on residential bills, our rate's 6110. Theirs is 10178 on our latest comparison. We're sometimes maligned on social media because people who move into the city don't consider that they get one bill that includes water, wastewater, and electric, and that bill can sometimes be higher than Boone REMC's bill where they move from. So I just want to point that out. And we can show the next table is, this is also a comparison with the IOUs and Boone REMC, but a slightly different perspective, cents per kilowatt hour, and not the average bill. Just take that in. Third, tables 3 and 4, this is our comparison internally to other municipalities. You see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What IMPA has done is they've looked at their membership and they've gotten other utilities similar to ours to compare, the ones closest to us in size to compare us. And you can see that we're right in the mix there, except for number 5, which is sort of an outlier. I'm not, we don't list the names of the communities, but the only thing that really differs is our rate structure, except for that number 5 there. So we're right in the mix with other municipalities, and we should be proud of that. Last thing I want to show related to this item is our electric service territory. You can see that the green is our service territory and the blue is Boone REMC. And if you see where my cursor is, up in that area there is where a lot of development's happening with the LEAP district. And I just wanted to, so most of that's going to be Boone REMC at this point. I just want to kind of point that out. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, I think that you should share this with the city council.
I will. I'll send it on to them, and it sounds like a great idea.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thanks, Ed. Any questions or comments on Ed's IMPA rate information? All right, Ed's going to continue with an update on development.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'm still sharing my screen. Development update. I first need to, I guess, give a brief apology to Commissioner Smith. He gave me some feedback on this, but I didn't have time to implement his changes because of the pace of what's going on. But I can go through and explain the slides. This is a review slide from 6/2/2022. This is the first time we did this type of development update for the board. With all the development happening, we're trying to track it very closely. And notice the yellow slides, the yellow dots are what's changed in that time. I thought it was really good to have the two maps side by side to show what's changed in that time period. This is the chart that we included on 6/13. It might not be necessary to have this slide in there with the update, but I want to include it because we sort of changed the character of what's in the table. I want to sort of demonstrate that. We've added concept plan, primary plat, and secondary plat because with the rapid pace of development, we're trying to make sure that we're exactly on the same page with the city and planning as far as what is in the concept stage, what is primary plat, and what is the secondary plat. We also removed the date it's supposed to be constructed because it seems like that doesn't always hold to be true. It's just a guess, and it seems like where it is in its evolution from concept plan to under construction is a better indicator of what is happening.
I'd like to express a little bit of disagreement with that I think the construction start date, while it might not be precise, does give us an idea of about when these developments will start. So even though it's not precise, I still would like to have our best guess estimate on construction start date on the chart, because I find it helpful as I think through things.
If I may, it's interesting, Mr. Smith, that I would generally agree with you. Lebanon has a very developer-friendly planning and development process where they will allow construction and infrastructure installation to begin on a development well in advance of the platting process. And what they do is they allow developers to install the infrastructure very early in the thought process is that they avoid developers needing to install or to pay for performance bonds because the infrastructure has been installed, but the final development has not been approved yet. So while it is a very developer-friendly process, it does elongate that beginning of construction to pulling a building permit to construct a home if we're talking about residential.
And so the availability fees won't be paid until near the time that the building permit is pulled?
Well, so as you recall, under our old availability fee or non-recurring fees and charges ordinance, we left that language the same very intentionally, knowing that we were going to have additional ordinance updates forthcoming. And so we have been discussing with the planning department as they are seeing the increase in availability fees and how that flushes out with the development community now. And we're trying to get a happy medium from the planning department on what makes sense on when those availability fees should actually attach.
And so, you know, I was looking at the construction date as sort of an indication of when that would occur, the availability fees would be paid. And what you're telling me is that that's not a good indicator anymore?
It's not a good indicator because we are technically reserving that capacity potentially prior to construction starting, or if you're talking on sections of various subdivisions, if you've got a 500 lot subdivision that has various sections, when does that availability fee attach?
Right.
Those sections could build out over 7 to 10 years. But
There might be 50 homes, and then availability fees will be paid on that, then a year later, another 50, and then the availability fees will be paid, right?
Right, and then, but we still have to reserve that capacity.
Right,
So
the total capacity.
the total capacity. So as capacity is getting tighter in the lines, we're trying to be more precise on when that should hit and when it's paid for. On the other side of the coin, the development community, much like what we did with the Grasslands project or development and the Lilly as a user, they want to ensure that that capacity is in the line and they own it and it's been pre-reserved, if you will. Because you don't want to get through section 3 of your subdivision and go to record your final plats for sections 4 and 5 and learn that the capacity has already been eaten up. So it's walking that fine line of writing the check at the beginning versus trying to allow the developer to not have to carry that cost for a period of time versus some certainty and reliability to the utility on when we can knock we can check that box that capacity has been reserved, paid for, and we don't have to think about it anymore. So as we alluded to on the initial adoption of the availability fees or the non-recurring fee recommendations, we will see some evolutions of our ordinances over the coming months as we work through some of those bugs with the planning department, and we'd like to update those, and we're going to bring back to the board a more detailed explanation of when we think those ought to attach, et cetera.
I'd like to make a side note here. We have several folks in the city who's very involved with this LEAP Innovation District endeavor, but I'd like to thank our council, because he's been a key member of that, and I just want to express my appreciation.
Thank you for that.
Very good.
All right, well, if we can go back to the chart, a couple things to point out here is, as Jeff eloquently described working out bugs in the process, one thing that's worthy of note is that you notice there's 31 things on this list. When I came here in 2018, if we were to have endeavored to make a spreadsheet like this, I think it would be maybe 2 or 3 items long. I don't know, because we didn't do it at that time. And I think a lot of them didn't come to fruition. But we've got 31 things. So there's a lot going on in the community. So naturally, when development happens, it's a totally natural evolution in a city and a community to upgrade its processes in order to make everything work together. And we're endeavoring to do that. I'd also want to point out that our 2 biggest influencers on here are Waterford and Grasslands Development, and they're both at the concept plan stage. And so that makes planning a challenge, and we've been working very closely with them, as has council.
I'd like to request that so would you go back, please, to that?
Yeah.
I'd like to request that you please add a column for estimated water EDUs.
We had it on the previous one, but as you'll note, the water EDUs and the wastewater EDUs are usually the same.
No, that shouldn't be, because there's 500, was it 500 gallons per EDU? What is that?
500 for water, 310 for wastewater.
Yeah, 310 gallons per EDU for wastewater and 500 for water. So they should be different.
Yep, we could definitely do that, with just endeavoring to keep the chart from being too busy to be.
Well, that's not too busy. Estimated water EDUs is very important, I'm sorry.
But just a small follow-up, I'd also like to see the total at the bottom of both.
Yeah, and I'd also like to see reported during these reports. And by the way, I'm sort of nitpicking here, but I appreciate this information, and I appreciate it being presented to us regularly, because it's really important. So just because I'm making these comments doesn't mean I really like what's happening. I'd like to see during each report the available EDUs that we have at that time of report also.
Can work on that.
Thank you.
And next slide is an availability fee summary. This is just an idea, not exactly what you asked for, but related. This is the fees we've collected and the running total. As you can see, even with all the development on the horizon, as Jeff sort of alluded to in his part, we haven't really collected like a massive amount of availability fees yet in 2022. It's actually less than what we collected in 2021. And with that, I think we took questions as we went, but are there any further questions? And I'd like to thank Ryan and John Leitner, who's not here today, but both did the lion's share of the heavy lifting on assembling this presentation. Of course, Jeff Jacob as well.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ed. Next item tonight's an action item as well. It's the amendment to our 401A plan. And if you recall, this 401A plan was initiated in 2018. And Ed Baskell will address this, but this is an increase of the utility match for employees.
Yes, we discussed this with the board on October 19th, and the board at that point gave their assent to go from 2% to 4% on the 401A. We didn't realize we needed a resolution at that point, so we're just finally bringing it before the board. We would want the board to move to increase the 401A matching contribution for all employees hired on or after 1/1/2018 from 2% to 4%.
Yes, and I'll just add too, we'd love to see everybody contributing, and it is important And we think that increasing this match hopefully will encourage employees to contribute as much as they can comfortably to the 401A. So this is, we're excited about this, and I hope employees are as well, so. Any other discussion before we entertain a motion?
And we also noted during the work session that it fit into the budget nicely, the increase did.
Yes.
All right, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to move to increase 401A matching contribution for all employees hired on or after 1/1/2018 from 2% to 4%.
Second. Motion made by Bill, seconded by Tim, to increase the 401A match contribution for all employees hired on or after 1/1/2018 from 2% to 4%. Any additional discussion?
Like, one more observation, this increase is not out of line with industry standards or across the board, and I just wanted to make that comment.
Good point. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next item is the Reese Park change order number 2. It's an action item, and our wastewater manager, Ryan Ottinger, is no stranger to the podium. He's back tonight. Hey, Ryan.
Hello, welcome to, you'll get used to seeing me up here quite often. I think my streak is still alive as far as consecutive trips to the podium. This is a change order for Reese Park Phase 1. This is work that was originally going to be done in Phase 2. So it is in the scope of Phase 2, but the point of doing it now is we still have work that we're finishing up real soon on Fordyce with Cocosine, and so their equipment is here and mobilized already. So this will enable them to go straight from Fordyce, take their equipment back over to Reese Park and do an open cut, and this work would just be in the park area. So all the right-of-way, easement, everything was taken care of on Phase 1. This is the only open cut portion of the job. As far as Phase 2 goes, or the remainder of the work, Phase 2 is going to be, the majority of that will be boring. Not boring as far as not fun to watch, but boring underground. It could be boring both ways, but specifically fun to watch. So this will be the open cut area. The soccer season is over, so the disturbance will not impact the use of the park. And this will allow us just to go ahead and get that part done while we are in the background, making sure the easements are taken care of, right-of-ways are taken care of for Phase 2. No matter who we decide on as a board and as a utility, as a provider for Phase 2, this work will need to be done in order to make the connection from the new lift station to the infrastructure upgrades as part of Phase 2. So depending on what the board decides as far as the provider and the contractor for Phase 2, this small amount of work won't really affect the overall scope of the job, but it will speed up the process and allow us just to get more done this calendar year and be ready to move along in the spring when we're ready to do Phase 2. I can answer any questions that we might have on this or try to help decipher what I just rambled through.
I asked you this question by email, and I'm not sure I completely understood your reply. You know, there's a dollar amount that will be included in next year's budget for Phase 2. Will completing this part of Phase 2 this year mean that dollar amount will be less next year? You understand my question?
I do. So this was, so Cocosine has provided a initial guaranteed maximum price for Phase 2. It's not quite ready to come to the board for discussion yet, and this work was part of their guaranteed maximum price. However, I don't know if that will change, this work will change the guaranteed maximum price because of price increases and whatnot, but this section of work was and is part of the work for Phase 2. So this work would come off, that cost associated with this work would come off, but I don't know if that would change their overall guaranteed maximum price. I can't speak on that, but this portion of that job and that work would come off as it was part of their original GMAX proposal for Phase 2.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask too, just for a little clarity, this is basically an advance of this money, not an additional $395,000. This is just doing it sooner.
Yes, this is just kind of getting, staying ahead. Even with, if we just take the rest of Phase 2, the Brennanwood area, the exposed creek crossing at Dairy Queen, and we do that, this work would have to be done in order to connect it to, for it to connect to the lift station. And with already having all of the easements, right-of-ways, and equipment in town, and it's an open cut, so you don't have to get a boring subcontractor or anything like that. We can use Cocosine. They can do the open cut, open trench, make the connections, the manholes and everything. It's about 600 linear feet, so basically you're just going the length of the park toward Dairy Queen to where the creek is, and then we would bore in.
About how far away from the creek will you be?
I'm not sure where it ends up. It's basically what, I don't know the exact
From
spot.
the side of the creek.
So from the lift station, it's 600 linear feet toward the Dairy Queen area. And so all we'll do is we'll leave enough space for a bore pit and the boring machine to come in there and set up, because you have to have the right angle to be far enough under the creek to be out of conflict. I think it's 4 or 5 feet under the creek is what we want to be. So whatever that space is, but it's 600 linear feet.
So the 600 feet won't be right along the creek?
I apologize. I thought you were talking about where we would
How
cross.
wide is the
So
easement, Ryan? 75, isn't it?
I'm not from Center Creek. Do we know offhand how wide that easement is?
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
But yeah, it will go parallel to the
Right.
creek toward,
You think
it'd be in our
75?
easement.
Okay. I
I'm
have
not
another
sure.
question, the guaranteed savings contract for Phase 1, how is that shaking out?
So, right now, we do have significant savings. I'm not prepared to give a exact number yet, because we're waiting on a few items to finish Phase 1 up. So, in our progress meeting, what we talked about, and this will be, I was going to probably talk about the next working session, is do we want to use, depending on what we decide on the provider, we do have the opportunity to use that savings to purchase materials now at today's cost, and also ensure that we have those available, as opposed to waiting to see what the cost is. And with ductile, we're having some issues with ductile and with plastic, so some of the boring and some of the connections, but we would secure that. We would be able to secure a majority of that extra stuff with the savings that we have. So the talk the whole time has been to roll over any savings we realize in Phase 1 towards Phase 2, and then let the board kind of weigh in and make a decision on if we have any savings after Phase 2, what we would do with that.
That sounds like good news to me, thank you.
All right, anything else for Ryan before we entertain a motion? We'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
I move to approve change order number 2 for Reese Park Lift Station and Gravity Sewer Improvements, Phase 1, in an amount not to exceed $395,499.
Second.
Motion made by Aaron, seconded by Tim, to approve change order number 2 for the Reese Park Lift Station and Gravity Sewer Improvements, not to exceed amount of $395,499. Any additional questions or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is approval of our claims, payroll, and transfers dated November 8th of 2022. Everyone had a chance to review those items, and if so, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the claims payroll transfers dated November the 8th, 2022, in the amount of $1,631,093.27 for claims and payroll, and $162,527 for transfers.
Second.
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Tim to approve the claims, payrolls, and transfers dated November 8th, 2022. Any additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, next item is other business for the board tonight. I think our general manager has something.
Yes, briefly, I got in today's mail, I got a great thank you note from New Smyrna Beach, where we sent a crew down to help out on the mutual aid, and they're more or less thanking Lebanon Utilities for helping them get their power back. 97% of the customers affected had power back in 72 hours, and they talked about how this mutual aid system had helped them get back in power maybe 10 times faster than it would have been doing it on their own. So it was very nice of them to send us a letter.
Good deal. Anyone have anything else for the board tonight? Sandra?
Good evening. And first of all, I guess I'll welcome Ann to the board.
Thank you.
And then real quick, I just wanted to do a shout out or congratulations to two of our employees. We had Ed Baskell, who took his SPHR exam, which is Senior Professional in Human Resources, through the Human Resource Certification Institute back in October, and Ed passed his exam, so he is now Senior Professional in Human Resources. And I will say that exam is not easy. It only has a 58% pass rate. So congratulations to Ed. And then we did have Debbie Van Camp, who she is our accounting and HR supervisor. She took her PHR, which is Professional and Human Resource test, this last Friday, and she passed also, and that one has a pass rate of just over 60%. So we're really proud of both of them and just wanted to congratulate them for the success on those tests.
Excellent. Thanks for bringing that up, Sandra. Good job, Ed.
Well, thanks.
All right, any other business for the board, from the board? Any public comment tonight? I don't see anyone here. Ed, anything come across your desk?
No, sir.
I'd like to make an observation, please.
Good.
If a member of the public wanted to comment on an agenda item and try to help us with our decision, wouldn't it be better if the public comment was near the beginning of the meeting rather than after a decision is made?
I don't see any reason why we couldn't move it up, other than generally the comments I've seen in the past are people who are here to observe the agenda and then comment on it after it's presented, but I don't have any problem with moving it if we need to move it.
In my tenure here, we've had public comment maybe 3 or 4 times, and we've generally deferred to them to start with anyway. So moving it on the agenda, we've generally deferred to them, so then they present their concerns to the board, and then we move on with the other business.
Yeah, so they're not sitting through the whole meeting, waiting till the end. Yeah.
So I think it's a reasonable request.
Or we could have 2 public comments, one at the beginning and one at the end.
We could, yeah, we could offer it twice. If,
Yeah, that'd satisfy me just fine.
okay. Danny, if you don't mind, let's pop a opportunity for public comment going forward up just maybe right after the Pledge of Allegiance, and then again at the end.
Sounds good.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yep. All right, any other comment or business for the board tonight? If not, looks like our next meeting is scheduled for the 23rd of November at 5 p.m., possible working session prior. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn if that's it.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. Motion made by Bill, seconded by Tim to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. We will stand adjourned.